Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to my big backyard. Today is, April 2nd, and it was the first day of the year to mow the grass. So I thought now that I have my yard, pretty much cleaned up, or as cleaned up as it ever gets, I would give you a quick tour, a spring tour of what's going on in my big backyard. So we're going to start out up here on my deck. As you can see, I've moved my citrus trees outside for the year. They won't be in this spot permanently, but that's where they are now. My winter sowing seeds are still down here in their little containers. You can see, I can't take the lids, oh yes I can. You can see this is pretty much how they did. I have some that did better than others. Actually, I went through last week and I popped some more seeds in a few of them. And this one I just started last week. This is actually sunflowers and I think marigolds too. We'll see. I have to put a rock on top of that one or it'll blow away in the wind. Now as we come down the steps, there's my cactus garden already this spring. It's ready to go. It looks beautiful. One thing I did have to do is chop the dead leaves off the big agave. That thing had some serious frost damage, so I trimmed that up this morning. But everything else in here just looks amazing. Check out all of the new pads coming out on this prickly pear. That one I think it's called Oranges and Lemons, if I remember correctly, and it is beautiful. As you can tell probably by the name, it has yellow and orange flowers on the same plant, which is pretty cool. So, continuing through the backyard, here's one of my more recent projects here. The green stalk planter, which some of you may have watched me plant up. And I have strawberries in every single little pod. I did realize that in this location it's going to have a dark spot. One side will never get any light pretty much. So I just got a turntable ordered for that, and so I will be placing it on a turntable so that I can rotate it so that all the little pockets will get light throughout the year. Quick look over here. I have this pot here. I just tossed some seeds in there over the winter. I don't even remember of what, so it's going to be a surprise when these things all grow. But I'm sure it'll be beautiful. So, this is definitely daffodil season. As you can see, the daffodils are coming up everywhere and are in bloom everywhere. Over here along the fence, you can see just some of them. My irises are greening up and looking great. But it'll be a while before I have iris flowers. But here's the daffodil flowers. I have quite a few varieties, some of which haven't even completely come up yet. Some of my older ones back there. The Columbine's looking good back there. Columbine always does really well here. And this really beautiful hellebore here. This is the first year that that's bloomed. I think I planted it last spring, but it just didn't do much. This kind of reminds me of this teeny tiny, this is an oak leaf hydrangea that has been in the ground for over a year now, and that's as big as it is. We'll see what happens. It started out that tiny, so maybe it's just how things are. So, anyway, coming back out of there, that's a viburnum back there leafing out next to these gorgeous daffodils. I'm really a fan of that yellow with the orange center. Those are just really pretty. My creeping phlox is blooming, although it's hard to see in the shade. And some of the things that I planted last year that I got on sale, like this lobelia and this echinacea that I planted at the end of the season, are coming up. I have a lot of lilies coming up along the edge here. I planted an anemone here last year and it did not make it through the year. However, the anemone that I placed on this side has signs of growth and is green. So, hey, one of the anemones made it, the other didn't. Peonies coming up. This is just a massive mix of irises and some vinca back there, which I like. Some echinaceas that I planted as plants are coming back. And some of my beautiful newer daffodils. Now, just this weekend, I planted a peony right there and another peony further along that I just bought at Aldi. This butterfly bush I bought last year. We'll see what happens to that. I tried a butterfly bush one year before and I was not very successful. But, we'll see what happens. And as usual, some more beautiful, beautiful daffodils. Now, as I come up here, I've been looking around to see if any of the seeds that I've been planting have actually sprouted or done anything. And there's tiny, tiny, tiny little green spots, like right there and right there. And I can't be sure if those are seeds that I planted or just weeds. So it's one of those things. This, I'm just going to call this my woodsy garden because of all the wood chips. Here's some more seeds. These might actually be poppies, baby poppies. They're very hard to see. I'm just gonna have to let things go in here and wait till I find out if they're weeds or not. I bought this hydrangea on super sale at Lowe's last year at the end of the season, and it's coming back up from the base. I'm not sure. I think the stalks are dead, but I left them alone just in case. Another giant lobelia right there. A lilac that I bought at Home Depot last year. More iris and lilies. If you want to know why it's such a random collection of things just planted along the fence and basically in this garden in general, is a couple years ago I decided to take all of the plants out from around my house itself in those flower beds, rip everything out and put in stone instead of having a mulched garden there. I thought it would last longer and be cleaner and easier to take care of. I don't know if that's true or not, but then when it came down to it, I couldn't bring myself to throw away or get rid of all of those bulbs and flowers that I had in there. I mean, I had tons of stuff. It really needed to be split. So when you look out here, now it's much easier to see the definition of my meadow area. And as you look out here, all the random daffodils are just things that I pulled out of the front of my house and around the edge of all the gardens around my house, and then just moved out here just to have somewhere to put them so that they wouldn't get lost. I have some really crazy doubles that are pretty. I've got these singles with a long, long trumpet. I have these, which are some of my favorites. I really like how those look. And I actually have some others in here. I think there's paperwhites even in here. There's a bunch of stuff that just hasn't come up yet. Now, I was brave today and I went ahead and I just mowed some paths into my meadow. Just a couple, just to divide it up and so that it's easier for me to walk through it. That probably means that I mowed down something that I might want, but it's just a risk I have to take. I don't remember really what I planted everywhere. I just have to hope that the things that I planted in my meadow come up nicely and do okay. I was looking in here the other day for those little artichokes I planted, and I can't even find them. I could have swore I put a tag in with them and everything. So, you know, that's what happens. I may be able to locate them again eventually. I've expanded the meadow. It's really hard to see, but there's only one pass with a lawnmower around this side. And then in from that white flag is more what looks like all grass now, but a lot of the seeds that I've planted have started to come up. If you look down here, there are tons of little baby flowers coming up, and I'm not entirely sure what they all are. It's going to be a mystery what comes up and grows in here, and if it can get through the grass, great. That's what I'm hoping for. I will be coming out and planting sunflowers in the meadow in designated areas, and also some of the things that I winter sown will be in the meadow. Now, as we walk back through the front yard, or through the backyard to the front yard, take a look at what my vegetable garden has going on. I feel like this video is probably a little long, but you know, I have a lot of plants and I have a lot of garden hobby. So I've got this flower bed around the base of the willow tree, and some daffodils have come up in here. Haven't seen any color in here yet, but I'm sure I will. And of course, you've all seen the stone. That's where I was talking about. I had that all full of plants and flowers at one time, and it was just a mess to keep the weeds out of. And while I don't mind weeds all over my yard, obviously, I have more dandelions than I know what to do with. I really didn't want them in the flower beds. So, anyway, as you can see, my onions, you know, they still look spindly, but they're actually quite a bit bigger than they were when I put them in. And the other thing to notice is that I did lay down my drip tubing for the season. It's not hooked up yet, but I put it in place. This is all carrots here coming up. I have tons of that. If you look back here, there's a lettuce there, and this is all kale through here. I tossed in some radishes and things the other day. We'll see. I won't even be able to recognize these things until they actually grow. I'm not that good. In fact, some of these things that I've planted here, I planted some of this stuff probably in October, forgot about it, and then came back again. And as long as I can keep my cat from using this as a litter box for the next couple weeks until it greens out, we're doing quite well. But I'm really looking forward to picking some kale and cooking it up with some bacon. Kale and bacon. Yum. The really, really big green stalks are my garlic. And my garlic did quite well over the year and another couple months. And I should be able to pick it and it'll be delicious. In this pot here, I have a lavender and a sage. The sage is greened right up. The lavender is looking a bit on the dry, peaky side. We'll see what happens. Got the red onions over here in this flower bed. So, some of you may have seen that I built these arches in my flower bed. This arch is going to be host to any vining crops that I plant. I've got some Thai blue butterfly pea and some butternut, honey nut squash, that kind of thing that I'm going to try to use the trellis to grow on. And this trellis is going to be the main support for my tomatoes, although I may use some supplemental supports along with that. And I think right now that this is going to be the peppers over here in this garden bed. Not really certain. My mind changes all the time. You never know exactly how my garden's going to turn out. So we're back over here at the side of the house. I have this autumn moon maple tree, which is just now going to start leafing out. So that's beautiful and nice to see. The crepe myrtles obviously aren't doing anything yet. They're always one of the last things to leaf out. There's an echinacea in the middle of this pot and it's showing signs of green, so that's good. And this is my coral bark Japanese maple, and that just looks stunning. And check out the little baby leaves in there. So it's growing and ready to go. So it's a bit shady under here, so this is the front garden. The front garden is the only garden around the house that I left as it was before. It's a giant mishmash of things. I have some sedum in here. I've got iris with Columbine right in the middle of it. I have these orange lilies in here. I put poppy seeds down in here. Dutch iris. And here's some beautiful hyacinths in bloom. And a tulip in bloom. These tulip has been in the ground for years. They don't do the greatest here. It's a little on the shady side, I think. But another peony back here. And what I'm hoping is that in here somewhere I have seedlings for poppies. I sprinkled a bunch of seed in here, and I'm hoping to get some poppy established in this area as well. We'll see what happens. And then I have this other Japanese maple. I believe this is just a blood good Japanese maple, which is pretty typical. A lot of people have, but it looks beautiful. The color is amazing on this. I'll have to show everybody this stuff again when it gets started. Up here in the front yard is a beech tree, and this just came out of the woods near where I grew up. And underneath it, I have these really cute petite daffodils. They just look really nice there. And there's a tulip in there. I don't know if it's going to do very well. It's not a good place for it. Just this pile and around the tree ended up being a lot of cool stuff. And we'll see. When I mowed the grass, I was really careful this morning to try to go around any remaining crocuses in my front yard. There's at least 10 or 12 patches of crocus in my front yard. They look great when they bloomed, and I really enjoyed them, except that they were shorter than the weeds. But next year I hope to actually add more to it. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this tour of my yard and all of the things that I have going on here. There will be definitely more to come. So, have a great day.